I was a tasker, bound by a promise. Win my target's heart, and my beloved would return from the grave. I poured my entire being into softening the cruel heart of Damien Cap, the villain. It didn't matter that he'd killed me 99 times. On my 100th. Try, Damien, just to entertain his precious Sarah, handed me over to a sadist. You can't die anyway, he'd sneered, make Sarah laugh, and I might even consider marrying you. But he was oblivious to the system's secret rule after 100 attempts. Successful or not, my love would be resurrected and I'd vanish from his world without a trace. Host has died 99 times. Hidden reward protocol initiated upon 100th death at the hands of the target. Reward will be automatically dispatched. Resurrection of Gene White. I awoke on a cold floor, my own blood already dried and dark around me. My sole purpose in this world was to bring back my love, Gene White. By completing the assigned task, winning Damien Cap's heart, I was an orphan. Unloved until Gene drew me from the shadows. So when the system declared that conquering Damien's heart was the key to Gene's return, I agreed instantly. I gave Damien everything my heart laid bare. Even through his torture, I offered only steadfast devotion. Damien knew I was a tasker, aware I'd be reborn after each death. He weaponized this, inflicting every conceivable cruelty without a hint of mercy. In my 99th life, he dragged me to a fashion show for his adored Sarah Vince. He watched her on the runway with deep affection, simultaneously humiliating me as if I were a dog at his feet. I sat there, quiet and unmoving, letting his insults wash over me, refusing to abandon him. Mid-show, the ceiling unexpectedly collapsed, raining glass down on us. Instinctively, I threw myself over Damien, letting the shards embed in my back. But he violently shoved me aside, scrambling to Sarah's uninjured side. The venue emptied, yet no one gave me a second look. A shard of glass was lodged deep in my heart. I welcomed my 99th death. It was fine. After this rebirth, I only needed to die one more time, then Gene would finally be mine again. I had barely gotten to my feet when Damien's call came through. Are you awake yet? He barked. Sarah and I are at City Central Hospital. Make some broth and bring it over now. The voice was laced with impatience, as if speaking to me was a burden. The fact that I'd just died for him didn't faze him in the slightest. I struggled up and drove home without even changing out of my blood-stained clothes. I began making the soup. Damien always insisted I prepare his food myself. If he found the tiniest flaw, he'd throw the entire container, soup and all, in my face. In my 67th life, his scolding had been so severe, it left a prominent scar on my face. He didn't care. In fact, he led the jeering. What does it matter? He'd sneer. The next time you die, it'll all reset anyway. Carrying the thermos, I hurried to the hospital. I found Damien doting on Sarah as she lay in bed. The moment he saw me, his brow furrowed in disgust. You didn't even change. What if you bring germs in here? Sarah gently patted his hand, then offered me a falsely apologetic smile. I'm sorry, Nina. Damien is just so worried about me. She feigned defense. Her eyes gleamed with clear mockery and contempt. Damien snatched the thermos, spooned out soup, blew on it, and carefully fed it to Sarah. She'd barely swallowed before she started coughing violently. Damien panicked, frantically patting her back. After a few minutes, Sarah finally calmed, her eyes misty as she glanced at the thermos. I'm allergic to lemon. I froze, staring. I knew her dietary restrictions better than her own doctor, but if she suddenly decided she was allergic to lemon, there was nothing I could do. Damien spun around, his face contorted with rage. He flung the scalding soup directly at my face. Are you trying to kill her? What you think if you get rid of Sarah, you can take her place? A searing heat felt like my skin was peeling off. I bit my lip, fighting the agony, and slowly explained, I'm sorry. It didn't matter what I said. Damien would never believe me. This was better. A quick death at his hands, and I could finally go home. Sarah watched my pathetic state with a triumphant smirk before melting back into a damsel in distress, tugging on Damien's sleeve. That's enough, Damien. Nina didn't mean it. Damien shot me a cold, hard look. Clean it up. I knelt, my hands scraping against the broken glass on the floor, collecting the shards of the shattered thermos as if I felt no pain. For some reason, Damien's mood darkened further. He roughly yanked me to my feet. Can't you use a dustpan? Who are you putting on this pathetic act for? He shoved me aside and called for a janitor. Seeing Damien standing near me, Sarah's brow tightened for a moment before she quickly changed the subject. Oh, by the way, Damien, you haven't told Nina about the dress for the exhibition, have you? Damien glanced at me, then spoke slowly. Sarah needs a custom hand-embroidered gown for next month's gala. You'll have it done in the next few days. My embroidery skills, taught by a master artisan, were refined and exquisite. But this intricate work was incredibly time-consuming and strained the eyes. In my 46th life, I'd worked day and night on a piece for him, all because of an offhand comment he'd made. The exhaustion and eye strain had been so severe that I died in my sleep. When I was reborn, my vision never fully recovered. The doctor had warned me to avoid such detailed work. Damien knew this, but he didn't care. I looked at him, my gaze soft, my eyes filled with nothing but pure, absolute love. Of course I'll do it. Damien froze, seemingly caught off guard by the look in my eyes. He turned his head away awkwardly. After you finish Sarah's gown, I'll take you abroad to see a specialist. It's okay, Damien, I said softly. I do. Anything for you? You don't need to feel guilty? Damien stared into my genuine eyes, and for the first time, a flicker of something, perhaps emotion, stirred in his usually merciless gaze. I, however, had no time to worry about whether he'd actually take me to a doctor. Once I left this world, none of it would matter. My eyes would be the least of my concerns. Damien's lips parted as if to say more, but from the bed, Sarah let out a pained whimper, clutching her head. Damien. He instantly turned his full attention to her, completely forgetting I was even in the room. I had no interest in staying. Anyway, I returned to my apartment and immediately began working on Sarah's gown. If I was lucky, I'd die from overexertion just like last time. I couldn't wait to see Jean. I had been away from him for far too long. The embroidery demanded my complete focus. Not a single stitch could be out of place. The design for Sarah's gown was immensely complex, and I found myself working day and night, pushing myself to the brink. My eyes were a web of red veins from the strain, and a dull ache throbbed in my head. Suddenly, my vision blurred. The world swam before me, and I collapsed completely, missing the phone screen that lit up with Damien's name. In the depths of my unconsciousness, I felt a large hand gently touch my forehead. I thought I had died, that I had finally returned to my own world. My eyes flew open, and I cried out Jean's name in a rush of joy. Jean, but the eyes I met were not his. They were Damien's, narrowed with suspicion and a dangerous glint. Jean, he repeated, his voice slow. Who is Jean? His grip on my wrist tightened, his voice dropping an octave. Who is Jean? My mind raced. I had to think of something. It's just a minor celebrity I used to have a crush on, I lied, the words feeling clumsy on my tongue. I was just dreaming about him. It was a pathetic excuse. But after a few seconds of tense silence, Damien seemed to accept it. After all, my love for him was absolute. I'd willingly died for him 99 times. How could I possibly have someone else hidden in my heart? You certainly have time for fantasies, he said, releasing my hand. His expression turned cold again. Just then, the sharp click of high heels echoed from the doorway. Sarah, her face stiffened when she saw Damien and me together. Nina, Damien told me you fainted while working on my dress. I came as soon as I heard. I'm so sorry. This is all my fault. She lowered her eyes in a show of guilt, but Damien immediately jumped to her defense. This has nothing to do with you, he said, his tone dripping with mockery as he glanced at me. Nina agreed to do it. She has to see it through. He let out a cruel laugh. After all, a worthless life like hers is meant to serve you. If I told her to die, she'd probably do it without a second thought. His words struck me, but I felt nothing. On the outside, however, I had to feign a look of profound, repressed heartbreak. Yes, Damien, I whispered, Whatever you ask, I will do. I came into this world for you. Damien's pupils constricted. He seemed flustered, unsettled. He grabbed Sarah's arm and pulled her from the room, tossing a final command over his shoulder. Just get the dress done. You don't have to kill yourself over it. That was new. Damien had never cared about my life before. I shook my head, clearing the thought. I had to die, and soon, and I had a feeling Sarah would be the one to give me the opportunity. She presented a flawless, angelic facade to the world. But beneath it, she was vicious and selfish. She claimed she and Damien were just like siblings, but she ruthlessly tormented anyone who got close to him. As I pushed myself up, I realized I wasn't in my apartment. I was on Damien's private yacht. I stepped out of the cabin for a walk and saw Damien and his friends hosting a party on the deck. I made my way to the bow, staring at the moon and letting the ache of longing for Jean wash over me. There you are, Nina. Sarah approached me, a wine glass in her hand and a sweet smile on her face, but her eyes were filled with malice. It seems you're getting better at this? Damien's been so gentle with you lately, she purred.
Wait.
But it's foolish to think you can steal him from me. Do you really believe he could ever love you? All I have to do is crook my little finger and he'll discard you without a second thought. She slowly backed towards the railing, a wicked grin spreading across her face. Nina, she whispered, what do you think he would do if he knew you? Push me into the sea out of jealousy? Would he tear you to pieces? Before I could even react, Sarah let out a piercing scream and threw herself over the railing, plummeting into the dark water below. Oh, Damien was there in an instant. He dove into the sea without hesitation, pulling a sputtering Sarah from the waves. Crew members lowered a lifeboat, and soon both of them were back on deck. Sarah slowly came to, her face streaked with tears as she clutched Damien's sleeve. Damien, don't blame Nina, she sobbed. She just loves you so much. I can understand. It's all my fault. Her words hung in the air, and every eye on the deck turned to me. I always thought Nina was just a pathetic sycophant, but it turns out she's a vicious one too. How dare she push Sarah overboard? Everyone knows Sarah is the apple of Damien's eye. Who the hell does Nina think she is? The whispers turned to accusations. Damien's gaze, dark and murderous, settled on me. It was a look I knew well, a look he always had right before he killed me. He gave a cold, sharp order. His men seized me and dragged me towards a 3-meter-high glass tank on the deck. I can't swim. I thrashed wildly as they threw me in. Damien stared at me as if I were already dead. Who gave you the nerve to touch Sarah? It seems I've been too lenient with you lately. The filthy water filled my nose and mouth. My survival instinct kicked in, and I fought my way toward the surface, but Damien ordered his men to keep adding more water. The people around the tank erupted in laughter, the sound a distorted roar in my ears. Then I remembered this was it. This was what I wanted. If I die, I can see Jean again. I stopped struggling. My body went limp and sank to the bottom of the tank. Seeing this, Damien must have thought I was putting on an act. Nina, stop pretending. You think this will make me let you go? I didn't move. Nina, Nina, Nina. A note of panic entered his voice. Nina, drain the water. Drain it now. Host. Deceased. Death count completed. 100 of 100. Hidden reward unlocked. Processing resurrection of Jean White. Terminating dimensional bond with host. Erasing presence from target world. Nina Lauren. Disconnection complete. When my eyes fluttered open, the pain was a distant echo.
Oh.
No water in my lungs. No glass. Shards in my back. No scalding soup on my face. No Damien cap. No cold, piercing eyes. Just silence, soft and warm. I blinked. My body felt light. My heart calm. I wasn't curled on a floor or gasping for air. I was in a clean, soft, unfamiliar bed. A sterile white ceiling hummed faintly above me. It was too quiet. I sat up slowly, my breath shallow, cautious not from fear, but because this perfect moment felt fragile, as if a quick movement might shatter it. Then I heard it, a whisper, a voice I had prayed to the stars to hear one last time. Nina. I turned. There he was, Gene White, standing in the doorway, disbelief in his eyes, his hands trembling as they held nothing but my name. Time stopped. He looked exactly as I remembered, perhaps a little paler, a touch older, but gloriously, undeniably alive. His brown eyes were deep and warm, his hair tousled as if he'd run his fingers through it for hours, waiting for me to wake. I couldn't breathe. Gene, I whispered, the syllable cracking on my tongue. Then I ran. My legs moved without question or hesitation, carrying me across the room in seconds. I threw myself into his arms. His warmth enveloped me like a wave reel, solid, impossible. Gene held me as if I were the only thing grounding him, as if letting go would make us both disappear. You're back, he choked out. You're really back. I buried my face in his shoulder. And for the first time in what felt like centuries, I cried not from pain or hopelessness or betrayal, but from pure joy. I had done it. I had survived 100 deaths, endured 100 lifetimes of torment, all for this, all for him. He pulled back slightly, cupping my face, his eyes searching mine with disbelief. How? He asked. They said I was dead, Nina. I was gone. And then I just woke up like I'd never left. And now you. I smiled through my tears. The system kept its promise. Gene's breath hitched. You did it. I nodded. All of it. Every time I came back, I remembered. I never stopped. His jaw clenched. Damien, I shook my head. He doesn't matter anymore. That world, it's gone. The system erased me from it. I'm not even a memory. He didn't smile. Instead, he closed his eyes, his forehead resting against mine. I don't care about the details. I can't believe I got you back. We stayed like that for a long time, silent, just breathing each other in, yet beneath the surface of that perfect reunion. A question lingered. If the system erased me from Damien's world, why did I still remember? It all, the place we were in, if you could even call it that, felt like a limbo between life and death. Technologically sterile, yet not cold. There were no windows, no clocks. Gene and I were the only ones awake. Occasionally, a soft voice from the walls would ask if we needed food, water, or rest, but no one ever appeared. It was peaceful, almost too peaceful. By the third day, Gene voiced the thought I'd been trying to ignore. Nina, where are we? I didn't know. The system hadn't offered any more information. There were no exit signs, no doors beyond the one Gene had entered through, no way to tell if this was a real world or another illusion. But I wasn't afraid. Not yet. Not until the dreams began. At first, they were faint, quick flashes. Damien's sharp, cruel face. Sarah's laughter echoing. The sound of a shattering thermos. But they didn't hurt me like they used to. Then came the message. On the fourth night, I woke to a voice. System interruption. Task concluded. However, residual instability has been detected. Emotional tether remains active. Subject Damien Cap has begun recursion. My heart pounded as I sat up. Gene stirred. Nina, what's wrong? I couldn't answer. System voice returned. Your presence has been erased from Damien Cap's world. But Damien's emotional perception is generating paradoxical behavior. World reboot imminent. Contamination risk high. One final choice remains. Then a screen materialized in the air above my bed like a ghost, displaying words in sterile white text. Choice. Remain here with Gene White in the isolated reconstruction. Memories will fade. Happiness is guaranteed. Or return to World 99. Witness the recursion. No further resurrection possible. Warning. If Damien Cap remembers you, he may destabilize the world beyond recovery. You have 10 minutes? Gene sat up. What's going on? Barely seeing through the tears welling in my eyes. I have a choice, I whispered. Gene's brows furrowed. What kind of choice? The clock on the screen began to count. Down 10 minutes. Then 9:59. I can stay here, I said, with you forever. But the memories, they'll be erased. They said we'd be happy, just not us. Not like this. Jean reached for my hand, gripping it tight. I swallowed. Or I'd go back just once to see what Damien is doing. No return, no revival, just watching. He remained silent. Then he looked at me with that familiar gaze he always had when I was breaking apart, the one that somehow held all my pieces together. You already know your answer, don't you? I nodded, 'cause something inside me still burned, something beyond love. Need to know if Damien Cap, the man who had killed me 100 times without a flinch, was finally haunted. With a kiss to Jean's forehead and a promise that I would find my way back to him somehow. Even if it took 1,000 more deaths, I made my choice. The screen pulsed once. Confirmation received. Welcome back, Tasker. And the world began to fade. Jean's voice echoed one last time, like a tether unraveling into stars. Nina. I woke up in a familiar, bright, painfully beautiful field. Damien Cap stood over a grave, my grave. His face wasn't the one I remembered. It was broken. Human. It was supposed to be impossible. The system had fail-safes. Once the final death was logged and the reward delivered, the world I'd left was meant to correct itself. All memories of me, my voice, my presence, my pain were supposed to be purged. Damien Cap should have forgotten me like a bad dream, but he hadn't. He remembered. I stood hidden behind a tree, watching from the edge of the clearing as Damien dropped to his knees before the grave. My grave, a small, nameless stone, no flowers. The earth looked freshly turned, as if someone visited often. Too often. He was dressed in black. His usually perfect hair was tangled, as if he hadn't bothered with a mirror. His face was gaunt, pale. His hands, once steady and cruel, now trembled. Then he spoke. I know you're gone. The words barely a whisper. But I see you everywhere. He reached forward and placed something at the base of the stone, a thin piece of torn, blood-stained fabric, corner of Sarah's exhibition gown. My embroidery. I took a step back, a sharp pang rising in my chest. I wasn't supposed to feel this. I'd made peace with leaving it all behind. I had what I wanted. Jean was alive. But Damien, the man who had killed me 100 times, was broken. I don't know why you haunt me, he muttered, brushing soil from the cloth's hem. The system said everything would be reset. But when I close my eyes, I see your face. When Sarah touches my hand, I feel disgust. When I hear music, I look for your hum. He clenched his jaw. What did you do to me? I hadn't done anything. I had loved him. That was the task. And yet here he was, grieving the ghost of a girl he shouldn't remember. The recursion was worse than the system feared. He had broken the loop. I watched as he slowly stood, lifting the scrap of fabric and cradling it as if it were sacred. His lips were pressed tightly. His eyes glinted like glass under pressure, one crack away from shattering. I hated you, he said. I used you, her. You killed you. He turned, and for a moment it felt like his eyes landed right on me, as if he knew I was there. But you never stopped looking at me like I was worth saving. My breath caught. I don't know what's real anymore, he continued. But if you were here, if you were real, I'd take it all back. A gust of wind swept across the clearing, carrying the faint scent of hyacinths, the kind I used to place in a cup beside his bed during Life 57. He remembered that. Right. 2. My chest tightened. I wasn't meant to interfere. The system had warned me, observe, and nothing more. But Damien's world was unraveling, and somehow I had become the thread. Later that night, I followed him. Damien returned to his estate, now empty. Sarah was gone. Whispers confirmed she'd vanished 2 months prior, after a very public scandal, involving manipulation, emotional abuse, and faked allergies. Poetic. Truly. Damien's mansion, once bustling with cruel laughter and endless parties, was now a quiet shell. Dust-coated, untouched wine glasses, velvet curtains remained drawn. A single photograph sat on the piano hymn in Cerie, but a crack marred her face. He barely glanced at it. Steady went to his study. There, where I had once crawled across broken glass at his feet, he sat, opened a drawer, and pulled out something wrapped in silk. My journal. I froze. How did he have it? I'd burned that during Life 78, after he'd mocked its contents at a dinner party. But here it was, pages yellowed and worn. He opened it to the middle, his fingers tracing the words I'd written in a vulnerable moment. I don't want him to love me because the system says he should. I want him to love me because he chose to see me. Even if he never does, I'll keep walking beside him until my final death. Damien read it aloud, then quietly said, I saw you. Too late, but I did. I turned away. This wasn't what I came for. This wasn't the closure I'd imagined. But the recursion was real, the pain still alive. Damien wasn't the monster I'd left behind. He was a man unraveling under the weight of his own cruelty. The next day, the system spoke again. Recursion. Level critical. Damien Cap emotional deviation exceeds acceptable range. Stability of world 99 compromised. Probability of collapse 47%. Course of action. One-time interface authorized. I blinked. Interface. You may show yourself for one final interaction. After this, all memory of you will be extracted. Number. Further returns will be permitted. It was the true goodbye. I didn't hesitate. He found me by the sea. I stood where Sarah had once thrown herself overboard, where I had drowned without resistance. The ocean was calm now, the sky a sheet of bruised lavender. Damien approached slowly, his footsteps faltering as he caught sight of me. At first, he didn't believe it. Nina, he said, the name like a prayer. I turned. He stopped breathing. I must be hallucinating again. You're not, I said softly. He stepped forward. But you died. I saw you drown. You didn't move. His voice cracked. I said nothing, letting the moment breathe, letting the silence fall between us like mist. Then, finally, he asked the question he had no right to. Why did you love me? My answer was the same it had always been. Quiet, simple, raw, 'cause no one else ever would. He stared at me as if I had stabbed him. I didn't deserve it. No, you didn't. And still you gave it to me. I nodded. I didn't even know I was capable of missing someone. But now, every time I blink, I see you. His voice broke. Nina, I'm sorry, it was strange. That apology, that soft, broken confession, was heavier than any of the knives he'd buried in me. And somehow it lifted the weight from my chest. I forgive you, I whispered. Please. Tears welled in his eyes. But you won't remember this, I added. Gently, the system is taking me back for good. He looked horrified. No, please, I can't forget. Not again. You must, or your world will fall apart. Everyone you love will suffer. His shoulders trembled, then let it fall. It already did. He fell to his knees. I stepped forward, placed my hand against his cheek, and for the first time, the first and only time, I kissed Damien Cap. It wasn't romantic. Wasn't passionate. It was a goodbye. His lips were cold, his tears warmer than I expected. When I stepped back, his eyes were already dimming. The memory was fading. The system's final sequence had begun. Nina? He asked again, confused. Where? Are we safe? I replied. His head dropped forward. He slumped against the sand, eyes fluttering shut.
Ow?
The sea breeze carried away the last of his pain. As I vanished from that world for the final time, I whispered a quiet wish. Let him live better in the next life. Let him choose kindness. Let him find someone else to save. Someone who doesn't have to die 100 times for his heart to open. System log complete. Subject Damien Cap. Memory reset successful. Emotional equilibrium restored. World 99 stabilized. And I woke up in Jean's arms again. I thought it was over. I thought I had made the final choice. Damien forgot. E was in my arms again. The pain was behind me. But peace, it seemed, was never meant to last. We were back in the white room, soft walls, no clocks. Jean held my hand, humming an old song we'd listened to on rainy nights. I closed my eyes, letting his voice calm my nerves like warm tea. This was supposed to be our reward, the reconstruction, a quiet life in a system-crafted haven, safe from cruelty, war, or death. But then I felt it a flicker, a crack like glass under strain. Jean noticed it too, paused mid-hum, looking at me with a furrowed brow. "Did you hear that?" I nodded slowly. The air suddenly felt wrong. Then, without warning, the room around us glitched. For a fraction of a second, the walls turned black, the hum stopped. And then came the sound, not mechanical, not human. It was his voice, faint, broken, not calling for me, but mourning. "Nina, I'm sorry. Come back, please." Jean's hand tightened around mine. "That's not possible," he whispered. "He was supposed to forget." "I know," I said, my voice trembling. The system chimed in immediately. "Warning. Cross-dimensional bleed detected. World 99 status critical. Emotion-based anchor has remanifested. Subject Damien Cap exhibits unauthorized recovery of lost data. Nina emotional signature not fully erased." My blood ran cold. I left. I whispered to no one in particular. He forgot. I saw it happen. Affirmative. Primary memory successfully purged. However, residual emotional imprints have rooted. Subconscious tether is rebuilding the connection. Jean stood. Then sever it. But the system hesitated. Unauthorized recursion is not native to the target. Subject Damien Cap is forcing memory recovery without direct interface. This is a volatile anomaly. Further memory removal is no longer viable without catastrophic side effects. Jean's eyes darkened. What kind of side effects? Collapse. Emotional meltdown. World erosion. Total disintegration of layer 99. Probability 81%. And just like that, our peace shattered. That night I dreamed of Damien again. But it wasn't a memory, not a flicker from the past. It was new. I stood in a rain-soaked garden. He was pacing. Under a stone archway, a journal in his hand. My journal, the same one I'd seen in his study before I left his world for good. Only now it was different. It was writing in it, pages and pages. His handwriting was frantic, as if he was trying to bring someone back through sheer force of will. "I don't remember her face anymore," he muttered. "But I remember the feeling. I remember how she made silence feel safe. I remember she died for me and I laughed." The pen slipped from his hand. He buried his face in the pages, and then his voice cracked with an agony I had never heard from him, not once in 100 lives. "Please, if you're out there, I'm sorry." I woke up in a cold sweat. Jean was already sitting up beside me. He didn't have to ask. The look in my eyes told him everything. "He's pulling you back," he whispered. I didn't answer because it wasn't that he was pulling, it was that I was starting to feel the pull again. The next morning, the system made an announcement. "Emergency option unlocked. Subject Nina Lauren may transfer temporarily to World 99 to resolve recursion from within. Parameters: memory of the host must remain sealed. Interface will be limited to subconscious interaction. Objective: seize and erase final emotional tether within Damien Cap. Success: recursion ends, world stabilizes. Failure: irreversible collapse." Nina Lauren lost permanently. Jean looked at me for a long time. He didn't try to stop me. He only said one thing. "You swore to come back to me, no matter how many times you had to die." I nodded, tears brimming. "And I will. One last time." Then I looked at the white ceiling and whispered, "System, let me in." The moment I stepped back into World 99, felt like falling through a memory I desperately wanted to avoid. But the sky was wrong gray, sickly, as if the world was suffocating, remembering something it shouldn't. I was in a marketplace, unnoticed, just another face in the crowd. This time, the system had hidden me in plain sight. My own name was gone. I wasn't Nina, nor even a tasker. But Damien, he was no longer the man I remembered either. He had changed. I saw him from afar, unshaven, surrounded by guards he barely acknowledged. He walked like a man with a gaping hole in his soul. He He had started building a temple not religious, but a memorial for me. Statues, fabric, samples, drawings, recovered bits of dress patterns, dozens of dresses, all stitched by his own hand. It was as if he was trying to become me, to feel what I had felt, to understand why I gave everything and received nothing. I stood at the edge of the temple one evening, cloaked in anonymity, watching him kneel beside a half-finished embroidery. Peace, a tangled mess of broken thread and uneven lines, he cried. He whispered, "Why did you die for me?" And suddenly I saw it, the final tether. It wasn't memory. It was guilt, pure, unfiltered, self-imposed guilt. And it was poisoning him. In this world, from the inside out, I had to break it. But how do you break guilt when someone clings to it, when they need it to feel human? The next night, I entered the temple under cover of darkness. Damien was alone. I walked slowly, hood over my head, and placed a hand on his shoulder. He flinched, turned, and froze. He stared at me like I was a ghost. "I know you," he said. "You don't," I replied softly. "But you remember what you need to forget." He blinked. "Did I kill you?" The question stole my breath. "You killed me 100 times," I answered. He dropped to his knees. "Then why are you here?" "To tell you." "Something no one else will," I said, kneeling with him. "You're not a monster anymore, Damien. But if you don't let go of what you did, you'll become one again." He looked into my eyes. "I just want to remember her." "You already do," I said gently. "Not the face, not the name, but the truth." "And that's enough. I'm sorry," he whispered. "Again, I forgive you," I said one last time. Then I leaned forward and placed my forehead against his, and the world shattered around us. System log complete. Final tether dissolved. Subject Damien Cap stabilized. World 99 restored. Nina Lauren extracted. I awoke on the white bed, gasping. Gene was there. I reached for him. He caught me. I sobbed. Against his chest, the trauma of 100 lives and 1 recursion finally purged. He whispered over and over, "You came back, and this time, I wasn't leaving again." The room was silent, save for the rhythmic beep of monitors. I sat upright. On the hospital bed, my hands pale and trembling, tracing the 4 in my arm. They said I'd been clinically dead for 12 minutes. No brain activity, that I should be a vegetable yet. I remembered everything. The water, the cold, the system voice. Resurrection complete. Soul reintegrated. "Welcome back, Gene White. Prepare for phase 2. I tried to speak, to ask what that meant, but my throat was raw, dry, as if I'd swallowed fire. Across the room, a nurse stood frozen in the doorway, eyes wide with disbelief. She dropped her clipboard when our eyes met. Your heart stopped. We saw the report. You were gone." "I know," I whispered. I was. The mirror beside the window reflected. Someone I barely recognized. My hair had turned a shade darker, almost midnight black, and my irises shimmered faintly like static beneath my skin. Something was wrong or right. I wasn't just alive, I was different. A buzzing filled my ears. And for a second, the world dimmed.
Ow.
Then I saw it, like an overlay on reality, a translucent interface floating midair. Lines of data scrolled faster than I could blink. Gene White post-sync. Progress. 12,100 depths absorbed. Skill echo reversal lock. Warning, Nina Lauren still active. My pulse quickened. Nina, the woman who replaced me, who watched me drown, and never flinched. She was supposed to be gone. Secondary anomaly detected. Recalibrating objective. Kill switch enabled. I stared at the glowing text, my heart hammering. So this was the price of coming back. A second life powered by death. And I wasn't the only one playing anymore. The city lights flickered below like fireflies trapped in a jar. I stood on the rooftop, the wind sharp against my face, but I didn't flinch. Not anymore. Below me, Nina Lauren lay crumpled on the pavement. Her once perfect image cracked open like a porcelain doll. No blood, just silence. The system didn't need gore, just completion. Final anomaly neutralized. Total depths absorbed, 100 of 100. Skill unlocked. Echo reversal, active. System directive complete. Preparing reset. I didn't truly know what reset meant, but I felt it a deep hum in my chest, as if the world itself was holding its breath. Behind me, Damien stepped forward, slow, cautious. No arrogance in his stride now, just fear. You, Jean, what have you become? I turned to him. I became what you made me. He swallowed hard. I didn't mean for you to die. You didn't have to. You just had to stand there. His lips parted to respond, but then the sky cracked. A ripple shot through the skyline. Lights died. Buildings flickered like mirages, and the system voice returned. Louder, colder, final. Jean White, all objectives fulfilled. You may now choose A. Reboot the timeline. Start over. Save them all. B. Retain your current self. Keep your power. Rule the fragments. I looked down at my hands, once trembling, now steady. I thought of the lives used to stitch me back together, the memories, the voices that still echoed in my head, every death that made me stronger. And yet, I remembered who I had been. I closed my eyes. Choose A. The world pulsed. Time unraveled like string pulled from the center of a spool. I felt my soul stretching, expanding, dissolving. And then nothing. A soft breeze. The smell of rain. I opened my eyes. I was 14 again, sitting on my porch, my father alive. My mother humming in the kitchen. No scars, no system voice. Just the sound of life, unbroken.